Welcome to the second part of the interview with Nelson Javier Mejia. Nelson is founder of weSpark, an innovation agency based in Frankfurt am Main. This second part of the interview is super fascinating to me personally because it's kind of a document of the time right before the crisis. Because in mid to end of February 2020, the crisis was not here yet, but we definitely by then saw it coming. So we knew something big was coming, but we didn't know how exactly it would affect us. So this is maybe an authentic document of the time right before the crisis. It was recorded on the 12th of February 2020. And we talk about ways to innovate in the crisis, how to stay positive and productive. And we share very honest thoughts on how we feel about the crisis. At first, we talk about Nelson's vision of his startup weSpark, and then we proceed to go on with the talk about the Corona crisis. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. So with weSpark, what is like the big picture you see in the future? What's the vision of your startup?
So the vision of weSpark is to spread human-centric innovation, as easy as that. And there's three elements that make weSpark's operation, or like three fundamentals, I will call them. So the first one is that every single project, it should be always an impactful project, like the sort of projects that makes change. So this is how weSpark makes money, by taking projects that of course are ethical and whatever, but that also generate some positive change in the world. Then the second part is that we want that eventually people talk about weSpark because they know that it adds to the whole innovation research. So right now in the team of, in the network of experts, two of us are involved in this European Union, innovation method development projects. So I hope that one day weSpark can be there, not that we are as guests there, but that we are as weSpark inside of this project, helping develop new innovation methods. And the third part is contributing by having social responsibility. It's something that you usually never hear from startups, or unless they are social responsibility dedicated startups. And I believe that if we invest 1/3 of our efforts in doing projects that are not for profit, then you really have a really nice ecosystem and formula to have a company that moves people. Novel causes such as adding to the research, such as doing social projects, such as, and these three topics like education, social phenomena such as problems with racism or immigration or whatever, and the third one, everything around environment, are the ones that move us. So this is.
What would be a concrete example of how you can help in the area of social responsibility?
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you first about the first little project. It was with one of the universities here in Frankfurt, so we will go and teach innovation methods. The difference is that when we are teaching them, we also try to bring this I will call it good into the whole methods, let them know, hey, this is super empowering, so we want you to use it for ethical things, and just bring the ethics on different parts of the process. Okay, so this is the moment where you learn this. For example, so we're going to do some ideation, and then when we are creating the ideas, I will tell them, okay, but now you have to have also your personal check. Does this go with your values, with your principles? Is this something that your grandma will say it's something ethical, and so on? So this is how we do it. And for example, at least for now, for universities, we are doing this for free. On the other hand, we had a big customer that is a huge bank, international bank, and this was a paid project, but they wanted us to teach innovation methods to kids. So we were running these trainings at different schools here in Frankfurt, which is super nice.
So the bank paid you to help kids innovate, to help you teach innovation to kids.
Exactly. So
Wow, cool.
So it's part of their social responsibility. I guess at the very end, it's like the bank doing these things. But personally for me, like when I hear about these projects, I'm super excited because I know, okay, these projects not only like keep the company running and like cover the cost, but are also, good things. And you start surrounding yourself from good people all the time, and eventually some of these people will, want to work at weSpark, and I will be super happy to welcome them.
So, what was your favorite project so far?
So this was also one of these projects that come from the for-profit part of weSpark, but we will still do a special price because the end of the project, like the cost of it behind the why, is something positive. So this was with a really multinational, really big consumer goods corporation that concentrates in products for personal health and personal care.
Shampoo and so on.
Yeah, for example. And with them, we were seeing how a big project was going to continue, where they are building different little Spielplätze, you call them in German, which means like playgrounds in English. And these playgrounds are supposed to be completely inclusive, so that kids both with handicap and kids without handicaps can play in the same space. So it's not like, okay, the children with wheelchair go to this park and the other ones can go to all the other parks. No, it's also not like, okay, so the children that don't have hands play on this little spot inside of this big park. No, it's like you go to a playground, and this playground has a lot of little games and things where also kids with handicaps can be completely interacting, and they are again with this topic with inclusion, they can be also just like kids playing with kids at the very end. Doesn't matter which limitations are behind.
So in this way you can do good in the society, do good in the world with corporate money, right?
Yeah, because imagine you're doing what you do best, and with all your passion and energy, and that at the very end, after this day, everything that you're doing good, like if you do your best work, then it's going to have an impact on something that is, that has a pure noble cause.
Yeah. That's good, yeah. So we talked about your approach to helping others innovate. We talked about how about the big vision of weSpark. How do you think can your startup contribute to the startup ecosystem, specifically in Frankfurt or in Hessen?
Yeah, so that's something that at the very beginning I was thinking, that the startup part is going to be also essential for weSpark's ecosystem. But at some point, after the second and third month, I noticed, I am a startup myself, and the first thing that you experience as a startup is everybody wants something from you. They even go for some for your information, for your time, or your money. And the sort of services that I do is not I can be charging different for the same work. Of course, if there's something with a good cause behind, then we will do a special price because we want to do these things to happen. If there's something 100% just a social cause, and we do it for free. And else, I don't really wanted to have different prices for corporations or middle-sized companies or startups, because at the very end, we are delivering with the same energy, with the same methods and everything. So at first I thought, I'm going to take startups out of the whole ecosystem because they cannot afford it, and it's quite difficult. So and then I started to rethink, but startups can benefit from the sort of innovation methods that we use, and from our attitude and energy and passion, and I started thinking about alternate ways to do a difference. For example, what if I'm doing them a favor and that's going to grow the network, we do it for free, and eventually they can pay back with their own services or something. That will come in question, for example. But eventually, when I joined WeWork Labs, where we're sitting right now, by the way, which is the accelerator from a program from WeWork. And WeWork is a big, I believe that most of the audience here will know already, but it started as a big co-working space, and now what they offer is like dedicated spaces for companies. But when I'm based here, it's just like we are all helping each other all the time. It's like we have this community, and personally I help with everything that I've been using for weSpark, with all the innovation methods, and I also get help from other people. So more about weSpark specifically, what it can do for startups is more the thing that, if startups get together, then we are way bigger than, if we're just individuals and we're all helping each other. Last time I was helping other people with doing pitches and teaching them innovation methods. Another time I had 4 of the people from the weSpark network sitting here together, and we were all learning about sales, B2B sales. That was another really good friend of mine that has his own startup, and he's teaching us sales because that's what he does best. So
it's a continuous give and take. You provide others with value, and you get something out of it in the future in return.
Yeah. So the only time that we have really worked with startups in a for-profit project, it was with an accelerator program that is also here. I'm going to mention them. So they are called Futury. Futury, yeah. So they are super cool because they are following really big, good causes. The first mission was about green packaging. The second mission is about green banking, the one that is active right now. And with them, they get the money out of, and I hope that I'm not wrong, but they get the money out of other companies, big companies that are investing in these startups. They have these ideas that are also sponsored by these big companies, and then they create the teams, and the teams work on these companies for 3 months. So this is a way of of helping potential startups to be without going for the money that they don't have. So it kind of solves this problem that I was thinking before. So I believe that the way to contribute to startups is to get closer to the accelerator programs, to the investors and business angels, and let them know hey, do you want that one company is taking care of your investments? Then we can have an innovation manager sitting there, and it doesn't have to be innovation manager as you frame it, but if there's one person there that is always neutral, that is just for the good of it, that can help with the whole synergies, that can contribute with methods, we can as I was saying before, become the sponge for stress and the sun when it comes to irradiating a positive atmosphere. Then you at one time you just hire all chances of success with this team or mini startup that you're working on. So I believe that this is the future of how weSpark will contribute to the whole startup scene here in Frankfurt.
Yeah. You also mentioned that you helped other people or other startups with their pitches. This was a topic that I covered at length with Pedro Ferreira. What are your own experiences with startup pitching? What are the big lessons?
I'm going to take something that I said before. So first of all is be yourself, know your strengths and weaknesses. If you're not really good at being funny or something, don't try to be fun.
Yeah.
So just
don't fake it.
Yeah, don't fake it because people will know. And if you're faking it, please do it in front of other people before until you fake it so good that it kind of seems real, and that you have done it so many times that you feel comfortable with it.
Yeah.
But I believe maybe the most important thing is about convincing the people to your cause. And I hope that people have some sort of at least half novel cause, there's something good behind it. Mm-hmm. And kind of starting with the why. So I'm kind of a fan of Simon Sinek.
Start with why.
Yeah, start with the why. and the why is usually like discuss what moves you, why did you start this. In like if you will ask me personally for weSpark, what I started it is because I was super like angry about the whole situation, about people just like slapping the word innovation on whatever title or on whatever service.
It's a buzzword.
Yeah, it's just a buzzword. It's like, hey, so I sell you innovation. How many do you want? 2? Like if you buy 2 today, you get the third one for free. Yeah,
it's like a product you buy. I bought innovation.
So I was really angry about this. I was angry about a lot of people like kind of like impersonating like this role of like, okay, yeah, I'm going to be your innovation manager, your facilitator, whatever. So I wanted to change this, and I wanted to like take people away from using innovation as an excuse and as a buzzword to actually bringing the people back to, hey, innovation is a state of mind. Innovation is a human thing. It's inside of us, and there's ways to discover our own patterns on how to be innovative. There are ways, like and methods that you can, like develop so that you can more often reach this state, and so on and so on. So yeah, this was my cause, and usually in my pitches I start with this cause, and I feel it's like there's something that bothers me, there's something that needs to be changed, and this is how I usually like win people to my cause, and everything else is just like it's the way of doing it. But with going back to Simon, it's just like the why, and then you explain how, and then what happens exactly.
So what you did was maybe scratching your own itch. You saw something that didn't exist to the extent that you wanted, and you went ahead and wanted to push that forward. This is something I see a lot with innovators and startup founders, that they see that something is missing or that something is not right, and they want to do it themselves.
Yeah, exactly. But what you need to consider is that when doing this, like right now, like we are in the middle of the whole Corona crisis, I will say, and I have had a lot of like workshops canceled. So it's kind of and with a lot of workshops, it's like postponed or canceled. It's mean like everything has been moved. And it feels really difficult because people only think about innovation during the good times, when innovation can be the solution and it's your opportunity to go during the bad times too. This is like the moments of crisis is where some people that are actually really moved by their causes, they can grow and they find the opportunities where other people only see darkness. So right now it's like difficult times, but it's also for me a really good moment to reflect and think, okay, so maybe you don't always have to be, like on site. So what if we run the workshops in virtual reality, which is, and possibly, I cannot say for sure, but very potentially I'm the first person to ever do visual facilitation workshops inside of virtual reality in the world. So maybe I can kind of like adapt a little bit the business model to be able to do this remotely too. And right now, like the biggest challenge of them all is, and when doing the pitches, is trying to convince the people that, you can use these innovation methods during bad times to solve your crisis too. And it's quite a challenge. Like I had to almost work on every single one of my slides and every single one of my sentences and pitches. At the very end, I'm still pursuing the same and trying to make innovation easy and trying to bring human-centric innovation methods to the companies and the teams that I'm working with. But I had to reframe completely everything. And now I have to work with people that are super scared. So this is a topic that is super, super exciting because we are indeed in the middle of a big shift in society and economy, because, for example, yesterday clubs in Berlin, like the Berghain Club, it's shutting down until mid or end of April. Wow.
A lot of meetings in co-working spaces or events with bigger groups are canceled now.
I had a really big event next week, actually. I said on the 19th.
I wanted to attend, but you need to cancel, right?
Yeah, it was like humor meets innovation, which is bringing again like a completely alternative perspective. You don't think about comedy and innovation at the same time. You don't think about fun and innovation usually together. But yeah, it canceled too. So
in these times,
postpone. Better, yeah.
Maybe we need the humor now more than ever.
Yeah.
And so what I wanted to get to was that we are in at the beginning of a tough economic situation, because indeed a lot of small businesses and also big businesses telling their employees that they need to work from home. So we are at the beginning of the, let's call it the Corona economic crisis that is about to hit. And how would you approach it? What are your general thoughts now?
When I created weSpark, I knew that eventually weSpark is going to move a little bit towards another part, so you have these three fundamentals, like the ethical projects and impactful projects. That's the one that produce money, the innovation research, and I mentioned before the whole social responsibility. So the fourth part that wasn't planned for the first year is like the whole e-business and creating a digital collaboration platform like no other in the world that will use every single device to the best of its capabilities. So it's all different technologies that we have now. We put them together in a way that you can create immersive experiences for solving and working in different ways. Basically, with this platform, we want to revolutionize how people work in the future, in the short-term future. And now it seems like we will be pushing it forward. So it's kind of hard because, you're having challenging times, the cash flows, they are tight, and you need to be super smart about how you spend every single penny, like the big companies. But maybe this is the time to just kind of grasp the opportunity. Maybe doing it for yourself first is the best way to convince your customers,
Yeah.
So let's see how it goes. I'm super convinced. And if you will go and see on weSpark's website, like the network, the Igniters teams that we have, like nobody's currently working on their like a fixed payroll with weSpark. So we have worked with three of the Igniters already because I have been working with them before. So, but they are all willing to come to weSpark at some point. Like there's 4 or 5 of them that continue asking me, how are things going? So when are you bringing me to Frankfurt, whatever? But my big dream is to make things work out so that I can bring this group of people together, because over 10 years that I've been looking for every single one of them, this will be the most passionate and possibly smartest and innovative people that you could possibly bring together, at least here in Europe. So whatever we will tackle, whatever challenge, is going to become easy peasy, as they say.
You mean the 3 igniters that you mentioned?
Like the network, like the whole igniters that you will see in the website.
Yeah, that is kind of part of the weSpark team.
Exactly. Yeah.
So do you see now that companies think that innovation is only for good times, when the money is flowing, but actually we might need it now more than ever? Because let me tell you something. I saw something super interesting. I didn't see it. I read about it online. So in South Korea, they started to, the clubs started to stream their nightly DJ session. So the people would gather at home with their friends or brother, sister, I don't know. They would drink. They would watch the live stream of the DJ in the club and hear the music at home and dance to it and drink. And what happened there is that the companies, the club owners, were forced to change the business model, because up until then they didn't stream their DJ sessions at night, at Friday or Saturday night. But now they saw, well, it makes a ton of sense because we are in the age of streaming, with Twitch being so big and streamers making a shit ton of money. So maybe this is a good example for forced innovation in a bad economic time.
Yeah, so during bad economic times, you have winners and losers, as always. Going back to what I told you, that is the most important thing for somebody that you will call an innovator: attitude. So how do you behave in the bad times defines you more than how you behave in the good times, if you will ask me. This is where you can really see the attitude of the people. And if you will go to see how companies are reacting, for example, one of the biggest potential leads that I have with my company, they knew, and we had like the third meeting with them, and they were super convinced that they want to work with us because like during this last meeting, they kind of like started like a little revolution. They know it's like, yeah, so we need to change the way how we do innovation, whatever. And we were like 10 people sitting in the room, like mostly innovation managers. But they thought, okay, so things are gonna go down, and when we hit the bottom, we will try to use, like a company like weSpark, where people are super inspired, they know innovation methods to kind of do the turnaround management and then change things for good. So this is nice, right? Mm-hmm. But then the crisis hit them so bad. It's not like, okay, I have my hands tied down. It's more like I don't have my hands anymore. That, it was just way worse than what they expected. And at the very end, they just got afraid and it's like, hey, we are going to postpone it because right now we cannot do anything, like even to the point that they will go and ask some people, I don't know if all the employees, but they are asking people to do half time now, which is super hard. And on my side, I believe that maybe the best way to convince these companies that the bad times are really good times to reflect and to rethink your business model and kind of adapt it and disrupt it yourself before somebody else disrupts it for you. I believe that the best way is maybe just start by doing it with my company. So I talk about the 3 fundamentals that we're following, about like the impactful ethical projects, about the social responsibility and the contribution to research. But the 4th one was about creating one digital collaboration platform that also includes virtual reality that is going to revolutionize how people work in the short-term future. Like nothing less than that. It's just something awesome. But I thought, okay, this is a project that might need a second company or just like repurpose at least half of all the efforts for weSpark to do so. And it was planned for later this year. And I noticed maybe it's the time to push it now. And, go against the flow, but collaboration, remote, digital, the sort of things that don't get hit by something like a corona crisis. So if we manage to pull this, then it's a really nice argument. We go to our customers, it's like, hey, we can do this for you. We did it for ourselves. It's maybe the nicest of all examples, because right now it feels like everybody is just like completely spooked off. All the customers' potential is like postponing things or just like canceling. Quite a hard time, but it makes you reflect yourself and think, okay, maybe this is the time to test something new.
Maybe it's the time to pivot, or at least to change the plan a bit. Yeah. So you mentioned several times the importance of mindset of the people. And I would like to quote somebody that is very, very well known in the startup and venture capital world. He's Paul Graham. He's, I think, the founder and by now ex-president of Y Combinator, a big, maybe the biggest startup accelerator in the world, or at least in the US. And he writes very interesting essays about startups. And one is called Why to Start a Startup in a Bad Economy. It's from October 2008, but he tweeted it today. That's how I found it. And I'd like to quote the following passage. So, beginning of the quote, if we've learned one thing from funding so many startups, it's that they succeed or fail based on the qualities of the founders. The economy has some effect, certainly, but as a predictor of success, it's rounding error compared to the founders. And this is like, he's here like paraphrasing what Pedro Ferreira said about what he's really looking for in startups. He's looking for the right founder, the right qualities, and the founder himself. Because when the qualities and the mindset of the founder is right, he can pivot any idea, he can change any business and be resilient and work through until his goal is reached. So I just wanted to emphasize that.
When it comes to the mindset, the attitude that you should have is like the right founder is the one that, it will think, okay, I don't know how I'm going to pay my own roof and the bread and the water that I have in my house in 2 or 3 months. But she or he will be completely aware, but at the same time, it's like, it gets motivated. But it's okay. That's why I need to go out there and kill it. And we killed it. I mean, like ace it, like get this business or try something new. Check what comes fast. And what I have seen from the people that I will consider successful like entrepreneurs in my network is that they are always opportunists. They know
opportunities in the best sense, right?
Yeah, in
because
the sense
it gets used in a negative sense too.
Yeah, well, in the sense that they can recognize when they have opportunities in front of them and they go them and they take them.
Yeah.
And they make success out of it. They find a way to survive. They find a way to grow. And are the people that are not really like afraid of failing. I asked myself already, like during this Corona crisis, like, okay, so is my company failing? So does it mean am I a failure now? Am I one of these people that people will later talk as he started his own company and it failed? And I had this, like, it's really fun.
You start to reflect very seriously, right?
No, not kidding. Yeah, and I'm talking really from a complete personal side right now. I asked these things to myself not many days ago. Like as we were saying, we're in the middle of the crisis, but like in the last 2 weeks, I have asked me like 2 or 3 times. When you're an entrepreneur, every feeling is magnified to an extreme, like the good times you celebrate super good.
Good times times 10.
The bad times are really bad. So you really need to have this attitude to be able to handle that, to control yourself with whichever methods, for some are meditations, for others are just sports. For other people, they can just be like, for some reason, sane while eating and thinking, about what else. And, I have had some days that I will call them like kind of like crisis days. And then these days I will be like for 1 or 2 hours super stressed. And then I have a little notebook, like my notebook of like my escape notebook. And then I just take it and I just write down what is the worst thing that could happen. And I create this scenario and then I start writing how to solve it. And usually how to solve it, it doesn't only... It potentially solves the worst case scenario, but it solves all other scenarios that are more probably that they are happening, that are not the worst, but turn out to be like more probable, and you still use these solutions and you never have to like hit rock bottom, I guess. But in the case that you do, you're still prepared. This is something like that I learned from Dale Carnegie, is the name of the author. He was great speaker and a man that knew a lot about rhetorics and how to win people to his cause and make friends. And this I really love. It's a little bit negative, you could say, like thinking about this, but yeah.
It reminded me a ton of something that I heard from Tim Ferriss. Do you know him? Mm-hmm. Tim Ferriss is also is a very famous podcaster in the English-speaking world. And he also wrote books and started his own company some time ago, and he calls it fear setting. Fear setting, and it's really basically exactly what you said. You write down, and you not only think about it, but you fixate it in the written word. Like, what is the worst thing or the worst few things that could happen? And then with bullet points, you write down, how could I prevent this from happening either, or if it indeed happens, what can you do to to cap the downside? Or to pivot so you get out of this bad place. And when you do that, you see, wow, this is all manageable.
Yeah.
This is not, in 1 second, in one moment, it might feel like a big fear and like the end of the world. But when you write it down, you see, hey, okay, I could really deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, like my worst case. So if you want to know my worst case, I come from El Salvador,
Please
right?
tell me, yeah.
In comparison to any person, German or person that was born here, my worst case is way worse, because it usually means like, okay, I get deported back to my country. And
you
I
don't want
wouldn't
to
say,
go back?
Not really. Like when I go back, I want to go back just to do some social responsibility projects. And actually, we had a really big one where we wanted to educate and show innovation methods through 150 scholars from extremely poor resources, but that have been like developing themselves. But due to the corona crisis, this is also temporarily suspended now, which is really bad because, like this is one of the, at least for the 1.5 months that we thought that it was going to happen, it will motivate me every morning to start. But going back again, and I got a little bit lost. Usually your worst case is going back home, right? Like, I'm a big loser, I fail. I go back home to my parents, admit, shit, I fucked it up. And, it's not so bad. Like right now, I cannot even go back to my country. So that's a little bit, that's a little bit
It's
bad.
literally impossible.
It's literally impossible. It's in full quarantine. Nobody can come out from, like, especially from Germany, it's blacklisted right now. So I have not even this choice. So my worst case is like being in the limbo trap in the middle of nowhere. But then I start thinking, okay, like the real worst cases, I have friends. I
You
have a
can
really
crash on
strong
my
network.
couch anytime.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Thank you. But then, like what I consider is, in these moments, especially like part of being an entrepreneur is like following like your passion and your vision and like sacrificing a lot for your company. But at the same time, I believe that it's it's essential to be able to stay humble and recognize when things go out of control of what you can do. And, and again, with being opportunist, like maybe it's not that like high opportunity that you wanted to get. Maybe it's an opportunity that will just like help you survive. But when it flies in front of you, you better take it. And, like the real worst case scenario that I can see is that I will go in debt, like, I don't know, 10 to 20,000. I have lost already a lot of money, like trying to build all of this. But I will go in debt. I will keep my company in parallel, and then we'll just be like feeding it so that it can like sustain and not disappear while I go back to work for some companies. At the very end, everything that I have done, it feels like I went to university 2 or 3 times and that I did like a master in whatever. I don't know, like...
You learn so much, yeah.
Yeah. So, like the worst case is going back to work for someone else, to follow someone else's cause. Go there, do your best every single day, save enough money, and one day, maybe after 6 months, maybe after 1 or 2 years, start again and follow your vision. Because, it doesn't stop the moment that you kind of like fail, I will say. So it's always how you frame it. And I believe this is the attitude. I can frame it like, I'm just like, I need to support it in another way. So I'm just like kind of deviating from the original plan. So I'm taking this like, it's not a shortcut, but it's going to be like the opposite is long cut. I don't know how you call it.
Yeah. No,
but I know like this is the new way. This is how things turn out. So it's just like be prepared for it, and then like be humble enough to accept the mistakes that you did. And the next time you try, you hope that you don't do the same mistakes.
Yeah. But the interesting thing about having a vision, having a big picture goal, is that it doesn't stop with one job or another. So some employee at a big corporation or a mid-sized corporation would think my motivation is to do a good job exactly at this company. But what if he gets fired? Then his motivation might be gone too. And when you have a vision, this vision is bigger than just one job or one client that you have or a certain period of time. So this vision might follow you through good and bad times, through several jobs or even companies,
Yeah.
That's why this purpose, this big why that also Simon Sinek speaks about is so important.
Yeah. And something that you can learn out of it is like from hearing these visions and the whys of other people, the causes that they follow, the situations that they have to go through. And especially if you have like, I'm in a network of a lot of entrepreneurs, so I'm exposed to their stories too. So going back to this like mindset change seminar that I tell you, is like, the sum of all these little lessons learned, of all these little anecdotes, these little super personal, emotional stories of people that went through really bad times and that managed to succeed, they keep adding up, eventually changing your attitude towards something. Or even because I will consider that I have the attitude to do this because, like sometimes I'm, like just kind of going through situations that you will think, okay, this only happens to the poorest people in the third world countries, but the difference is that I'm in the first world country, so everything is magnified. But I still, manage to wake up the next day and be super motivated, come to work and do things, and then when I'm like this, good things also happen. So I believe that it's like even for the people that already have the attitude, being exposed to all these little stories and lessons learned that I was taking, they can help you like go through the bad times. Because when the storm comes, you feel like all these stories become like your little umbrella. Even though if your feet get completely wet, which they did today. yeah, just as a little like context why I choose this metaphor today. But you will still like come out dry at the very end.
So what would you think would be a good message to get out to companies, to startups, but also to individuals in an economically hard time that we are in now, that will begin now?
Especially coming from the innovator or entrepreneurial side of me, I really hope that I really have them also in my DNA right now, is that, the worst times are usually times of a lot of new opportunities. Sometimes they will seem small, but they are there. So you need to be more aware of it and try to grasp them, try to get them. The last time that we had such a big opportunity to define like new winners and losers was, in 2008, 2009. So now you have to see that the crisis is an opportunity where you need to really quickly reflect about what you have been doing, how it got affected by the crisis, and how you can come out of it just like stronger and bigger. So right now is a time that, the people that really have the attitude to continue, the people that have the attitude, the energy and the knowledge and the skills to innovate are the ones that are going to raise a lot right after the crisis. So I really want you to be one of them, just like by trying to be the best version of yourself every single day, while you feel that most of the people are kind of like living the worst version of themselves, and you will see that you will just shine. That's my message, like just get out there, have a positive mind. People need it, others need it, like your network, your friends, your colleagues, they need it too. So there's nothing that you can lose out of it.
That's a good message, and that's honestly something that I should take to heart more in my own personal life. And I want to expand a little on what you just said. So there are great examples for big, huge companies that came out of startups that started in hard times. So Airbnb started in 2008, when the financial crisis, the last one, was at a high. Uber started 2009. Twitter started 2006 and became more and more prominent in, I think, 8, 9, 10. So those are huge companies that seem to come out of a hard time. I don't know in these concrete cases how each of those tried to use the hard financial or hard economic time as an advantage, but maybe it's an indicator to go on the offense now, to push it now, to stay positive, and to look for new opportunities. Because in economically hard times like we have now, there's also less competition. Yeah. Competition is pulling back.
I believe like part of the reflection is to know what you're good at. And right now, with Corona and people not like canceling like all sort of events where they are together, I think is okay. A good thing about growing up in El Salvador is that I lived like almost the whole history of the internet compact in less years, right? Because I lived through the 90s in El Salvador. and I was like the first of all my friends to have internet at home.
How
and
old
a
are you?
computer. I'm 29. You almost don't ask anymore, you know. But yeah, so I lived through the whole like internet. So I kind of was like from the 1% that was doing the internet. I had my first website when I was 13 years old.
What was it about?
Yeah, it was about like Pokemon, and you know, like now that I think about it, you know, because of copyright infringement, it would have been like almost totally illegal. But but yeah, these are not the sort of things that you think when you're 13, right? You just like create things.
Yeah.
Don't think about consequences. I believe that this is how you should continue right now. Okay, yeah, be aware of the consequences, but still don't stop creating those. Don't stop trying. And during times of Corona, you can think that, you know, like ideas that are digital, that are about collaboration in remote ways, are sort of the ideas that can like grow right now. So yeah, just think, okay, this is what the situation out there. And for example, I myself consider that I always been part of the internet, and I've been creating the internet, so I should use all of these like benefits that I learned from it, all these networks and communities and that I have been building, and forums where I'm involved, and just like mix it with the situation and with what I want to do with weSpark, and then come out super great. This is also the time where you consider, wow, so maybe everything that we have been building and how globalization works and the whole economic system, yeah, maybe it doesn't completely make sense. So maybe I hope that somebody out there listening, or somebody, one of the two of us, comes out to a way to just disrupt the whole way of how the economy works. Because I believe after this little, because it's a little crisis that has just like exploded to become something huge.
In a matter of 2 months.
Yeah, in a matter of 2 months. You see how fragile all our systems are, and the ways of doing business. So how in the hell can we accept to be still exposed to this? Somebody needs to change it, and the people with the right attitude are the ones that will do. The people that are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones that do. So, yeah.
It kind of makes sense that we are struggling now, because we didn't expand on a lot of opportunity that we got at hand in terms of remote businesses, remote work. Like a company like Zoom, ZOOM, that is offering telecommunication services like digital meetings. Their shares are now through the roof. They are doing super well, because people are literally forced to use something like Skype or Google Hangouts or Zoom to do their work with other people. This might be the time to go all in on these opportunities of remote work, of doing things remote through means of telecommunication, right?
Yeah, communicating, collaborating together, those are the big words now, as long as it's digital and remote. Yeah, every company out there, and I have been like getting some emails from companies that I don't expect to get emails, like Slido, Slido.com,
What's it spelled?
Which is a SLI.do. In
Slido.
German would be Slido.
Slido, yeah.
Yeah, and like I will get an email of them, and they are just like opening all their services for education, so that teachers can use their platform to, you know, like pose questions and interact with their scholars and students. And you know, you just know, like, yeah, they are prepared for it. At the same time, you can like argument, and I'm not going to make any assumptions, because at the very end it comes down to the numbers. But so maybe it's more sustainable to be working in this way, you know, like still super connected, but there are new technologies emerging. Like as soon as we have a facial recognition, while having hand tracking and on Tether, or like on Tether means without PC, without a computer, virtual reality headsets, then, you know, like collaboration through virtual reality is just going to boom, is going to explode completely. Because at once all these last barriers that we have through video calling and through virtual reality meetings now, they will just like fade away, and it will really feel like teleporting somewhere in a matter of minutes, teleporting 10,000 kilometers to the other side of the world to do business, and you can still really interact as you will do. You can feel a handshake of someone else without, you know, being at risk of getting corona. You see?
Yeah.
So I believe that it's really, really nice to just think about it. So yeah, with weSpark, we really have really nice plans. It's kind of difficult because it's about like going completely through the current where the money is, getting slim, when the cash flow is becoming a trouble. Then people usually don't think about, okay, this is the moment to invest and to put all the risk in. But I believe that, between the ones that do, there can only be winners. Because even if you fail, you will learn a lot of lessons and you will be, maybe you have to go back to work, to the normal 9 to 5 kind of life that most people accept and take as a given thing, even though it's not now, we were speaking before. And then just resurface again in half a year, in 1 year, in 2 years, or as Pedro said, it's about like the attitude that people have, and like investors know this. So when they find the right team, the right people, they can take them and just like solve all their like debt problems, whatever, because they know it's okay. This is the girl, this is the guy that should be behind this idea or behind this project, and they will just like go and take them, convince them, persuade them, win them to their cause.
Yeah. I think those are good closing words. Nelson, thank you very much for taking the time and for sharing your opinion so honestly.
It's nothing less than a huge pleasure for me. And thank you, Chris. It's been super exciting to talk about this and to open up, to talk from the heart.
I think so too. We should do a part 2 sometime in the future. Maybe when the crisis is over, so we can reflect on how it went,
Yeah, how it happened. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, okay.
A little bit scared about it now, but but I believe that's actually the cool thing, right? That, everything that we have been talking is indeed, I've been reflecting through this meeting, so I'm going to go out and try some things. I feel really empowered now. But
let's make a deal to do a part 2 after the Corona crisis is over, and then we can see how it went down.
So hopefully it's going to be soon then, right?
Yeah, right. Thank you very much for listening. I'd like to encourage you to follow the Connecting Dots podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or every other podcast player that you use. It would also help a lot if you would give me a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. That would definitely help me to grow the podcast faster and to share the stories and learnings of the people I interview. So thank you very much, and until next time.